Hello everyone, good evening to you all. Welcome to the Reactor Bangalore. I am Parth Varu, event planner for Microsoft Reactor Bangalore. So before we begin, please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We are all here to learn together, so please be respectful of other people's views, understanding of differences, being kind and considerate in the way you engage. The chat will be open throughout and we do encourage you all to participate. Also, please keep your mics muted during the session. Now, I would like to welcome Navika, our speaker for today's session. Navika has been a Microsoft Ignite speaker, judge at Microsoft Imagine Cup Junior, and a Gold Microsoft Student Ambassador. She is well versed in cloud computing and Microsoft Azure. She is passionate about using technology for good cause and also reaches out vulnerable sections of the society in order to empower them with tech tools. So now I hand it over to Navika to begin the session.
Thank you so much, Parth, for such a warm welcome. So hey everyone, I'll quickly share my screen so that we can start with this session. Parth, please do let me know if it's visible.
Yeah, I can see your screen. We can see your screen.
1 second. Just presenting. Yeah, perfect, right? Good to go?
Yep.
Okay. So hi everyone. So today's session would be on introduction to cloud computing and Microsoft Azure. Parth has already introduced me, so I don't think so this slide is needed anymore, but still a little bit more about myself. So I am a BTech IT graduate and currently I'm a graduate student at IIT Madras. I'm pursuing diploma in programming. Along with that, I've been a World Microsoft Student Ambassador for the last 3 years. I am very much interested and into judging and mentoring the tech hackathons, especially one like I've just mentioned over here, like a judge at Microsoft Imagine Cup Junior 2021 and speaker at Microsoft Ignite 2021. I have conducted many sessions on Azure and cloud computing, and I'm very much passionate about tech communities. I'm also very passionate about reaching out to the vulnerable section of society and empowering them with the tech tools. For instance, I'm working closely with visually impaired students and acid attack survivors so that I can empower them with the latest Microsoft technology like Office 365 tools and Microsoft Azure. And and for my work, I have been awarded with Women's Achiever of India, Pramerica Spirit of Community Service Awardee, and much more. So that was a little bit brief about myself. These are my, I have moved forward. Are you able to see my next slide? 1 second.
No.
Just a second. Close my video. Let me just share it again, huh? Now it's fine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just hanged in between a little bit. So yeah. So these are my Twitter and LinkedIn credentials. You can just take a screenshot, and I would love to connect with each one of you after the event. So do connect me over there. Connect with me over there. Now, without any further ado, just let's start with today's event. So for those of you who have just joined in, I'll quickly tell you a brief about today's event. So it's about introduction to cloud computing in Microsoft Azure. I would be giving you a brief about cloud computing for those of you who are very new about this concept, and then we would be diving into Microsoft Azure. We are just having 1 hour with us, so I would try to make you a little bit practical of it. I will show you the UI of Azure Portal and how it works, about storage, blob, containers, and virtual machines, etc. And I hope that you learn a lot out of this session. So when it comes to cloud computing, so what is cloud computing? So in layman's language, cloud computing is nothing but renting resources, maybe like storage spaces or CPU cycles on some another company's computer. That's like layman's language. Now, what do you mean by some another company's computer? So the companies who actually provide us with these services, they're known as cloud providers. So for example, Microsoft is a cloud provider for Microsoft Azure, right? Now the best part about cloud computing is that you only pay for what you use. So it actually follows a consumption based model. That means you pay as you go, what they call. And then there are a lot of services that cloud providers provides us with. For example, compute power, networking, storage, analytics, and much more. So today, our focus would be more on compute power and storage. And of course, it's so cloud computing in Azure is like an ocean. You can be an expert in any of the field, but that's what today I am aiming for. That is compute power and storage. Now, talking about compute power. Okay, so let's take an example. For example, when you send an email, okay, you're doing some online reservation, or you're doing the online payment. That's the most in thing right now. So what are we actually doing? We are interacting with the cloud-based servers, right? We send in a request to them, they process our request, and in return, we get a response. So basically, as a customer or as a user or as a consumer, at the end of the day, we all are dependent on the cloud providers, right? That's how it works. Now, within compute power, we have certain things. For example, we have virtual machines, we have containers, we have serverless computing, and we have a lot many other things. Do not worry about this. I'm going to cover this in the further slides of this deck. So no need to worry about these terms for those of you who are not aware of it. Jumping quickly onto storage. So basically, we are aware that most of the devices and applications, they either read the data or they write the data. For example, if we are looking up at a price of something online, so what are we doing? We are reading the data, right? And if we are taking a picture, for example, so we are writing the data. So what's the best part about cloud computing system is that for different type of data, we have different type of storage system. For example, if I have a text file to be stored or something, text, let's suppose a text doc to be stored, I can simply store it on a file on a disk, right? But if I have something more structured or something more, something set of relationships to be stored, for example, address book, then I can go ahead and I can store it in much structured approach. That is that I can store it in database. So that is the best part about cloud computing, that different types of data can be stored in different type of services provide under cloud provider storage. This is a generic thing, and we would be coming on Azure as well. Now, what are the benefits of cloud computing? If someone asks me, okay, that's fine, but why cloud computing? Why should I go in for cloud computing? So these are certain benefits which I have mentioned, which you're able to see on your screen. So the first one is that it's very cost effective. As I've already mentioned prior, that it follows the pay as you go model or the consumption based model, right? That means you don't have any upfront charges, infrastructure cost for it. That means you do not have to manage anything. You don't have to manage the hardware. You don't have to update the software. That's taken care by the cloud provider, right? You simply have to build and deploy your application. That is what you're supposed to do. Similarly, you are not purchasing anything, you are renting it, right? You have the ability to pay for the additional resources that you are taking in, and you also have the ability to stop paying for the resources that you are no longer using. I hope that's pretty much clear. Then it is scalable. So what do you mean by scalable? So scalability means you can simply increase or decrease the resources or the services based on the demand or the workload of your organization at a given time, right? So there are two types of different scaling. One is vertical scaling and the other one is horizontal scaling. Now, what does vertical scaling means? I'm not going that much too much into detail theoretical part, but still you should be aware of it. So vertical scaling is also known as scaling up. That means adding more resources to increase the power. Example, if I am adding more CPUs, that means I'm doing vertical scaling. Similarly, the second part of scalability is horizontal scaling. Now, what does that mean? That means scaling out. That means we are adding more servers. So scaling out is like adding more servers, and scaling up, that is vertical scaling, means adding more resources, for example, more CPUs. That's about scalability. Coming on to elasticity, or this third term which is mentioned on the screen, that is elastic. Okay, so let me make you understand through an example over here. So let's suppose if I have a website of mine and that's been featured in a news article suddenly, huh? And now since it's been featured in a news article and there's so many people who are, reading about it, so there would be more traffic suddenly. So during the night, if it has been featured, there would be suddenly so much of traffic on my website, and I would be needing resources to handle it. So if I have put my website on the cloud providers, if I build my website on the cloud providers' cloud computing system, then they provide us with this option of elasticity. That means sudden automatic traffic can be automatically handled. That means the resources will automatically add up to handle my traffic when it has increased. And when my traffic is back to normal, when I have normal people coming onto my website at a normal pace, then automatically the cloud provider will decrease the resources which it has added. And yes, and for the extra resources that it is adding, it will charge me extra. And then when it's back to normal, I have to just pay for the normal resources which I currently have. So that's about elasticity. Coming on to current. So of course, if I'm using cloud, I want to be very specific that I just want to build, deploy, and test my application. I don't have to worry about anything else. And that's what current specifically means. Just pay attention at building and deploying your application. Rest we are taking care of. That's what current means. Reliable, of course. If we are, if I'm running a business, I want I want to be really confident about my data, right? I want that it should be stored in a very protective way, and that's what the cloud providers do. They provide us with the disaster recovery or maybe data backup, data replication, etc., so that our data is quite stored. It is global, that it has data centers and resources all over the globe, so it's global. And secure, I've already covered earlier, that it's pretty much secure. Now, there are different cloud deployment models, namely public cloud, private cloud, and the hybrid cloud. Now, talking about the public cloud, I would say the public cloud is the most common deployment model which is used in the present date, right? So here you don't have any local hardware which you're supposed to manage. You do not have any software that you're supposed to keep it up to date. Everything is done at the cloud provider's end. Yes, in some cases, you can save some additional cost by sharing the cloud computing resources with other cloud users as well. So that is also one of the options. Now, there are a lot of advantages of public cloud. So one of the advantages, of course, pay-as-you-go model stays with everything, but you don't have any extra capex cost. I hope that you're aware about capex and opex. I'll quickly tell you. So capex means capital expenditure and opex means operating expense. So capex being capital expense, that means capital expense means upfront investment. It's like one-time investment that we do, and it's usually non-recurring. On the other hand, OPEX, that is the operating expense, that's basically usually recurring cost that every month we have to pay for certain things, or every 2 months we have to pay for certain things. That's known as OPEX. And CAPEX is just opposite of that. So that's a little bit extra knowledge which I gave. And similarly, you're not responsible for the maintenance or updating of hardware when I talk about the public cloud. Now, shifting on to another model, that is the private cloud. Now, private cloud and private cloud, what we basically do is we sort of create a cloud environment, okay, in our own data center. That means okay, data center. Let me explain you as in at your place, okay, in your region. You are creating a cloud environment. So I have a company, let's suppose, and I've created this cloud environment. And in my company, I of course have certain employees. And what I'll do is, after creating my own cloud environment, I will be providing them with the access. Uh, I'll be providing the access of it to my employees. So for my employees of my organization, it would be like a simulation of a public cloud only. But actually, at the back end, it's me who is handling it, because I remain completely responsible for the purchase and maintenance of the hardware and software services that I provide, right? So we have more control in private cloud, but yes, disadvantage is that I have to take care of all the hardware and software updates, etc., etc. But yeah, it is a little bit more secure than the public one. Coming on to the third one, that is the hybrid cloud. As the name suggests, it is a combination of public as well as the private cloud. Taking an example so that it gives you more clarity, if I want to host a website, let's suppose in the public cloud, and I want to link it to a highly secure database hosted in my private cloud. So that's the scenario where I would go in for hybrid cloud. Because if I have certain data which I don't want to make it out, show it out to public, I want to keep it to myself. But at the same time, I want to host my site also on cloud providers, cloud computing system, then I would go in for the hybrid cloud. So I hope this much is clear to you. And this is more of theoretical part, I understand. So we would quickly go into the practical one as well. Now, the types of cloud services. So we have three types of cloud services. IaaS, that is the first one, and it stands for Infrastructure as a Service, right? This is one of the most flexible category, I would say, of cloud services because it gives us most control over the provided hardware that runs on our application. Now, most control over a hardware that runs over a application, what do you mean by that? I mean virtual machines, storage, operating system, everything. We have full control over it, right? So what are the pros of it? So what are the advantages of it? The advantage is that I have total control over all my resources. I wouldn't say all, I would say most of my resources, like 90-80% of it. The second one is that I don't have any upfront cost. I just pay for what I actually use. And the third one is that it's very easy way to transition to the cloud in IaaS. And what are the cons? Like, what are the disadvantages of using infrastructure as a service? It is a little bit costly because since we have most control, so yeah, it's a little bit costly, and it requires more staff or more man power, I would say, in order to handle IaaS because we are the one who are handling most of the resources. So that is a little bit disadvantage. Example of IaaS is let's suppose virtual machine is IaaS. Virtual networks comes under IaaS. Now, going clockwise on your deck, the second one is PaaS, that means Platform as a Service. So here what happens is it provides us an environment for building, testing, and deploying our software application. So what's the main goal of PaaS? The main goal is it helps us create an application very quickly without managing the underlying infrastructure. So it's like 50% of the work. 50% of the work that is handling the backend and handling the hardware and software update is taken care by the cloud provider. And rest building, deploying is taken care by me as a user or as a customer, right? So it's like 50% of the work that we do. Example of platform as a service is storage, which we would be doing. App service also comes within it. Then we have SQL, search. These all things come under PaaS. Of course, its main advantage over IaaS is that you have less management and administrative work. You don't need that much of manpower when you're going in for PaaS as compared to IaaS. But what are the disadvantage? You have less control over the resources, right? In IaaS, you had 90-80% of the control over the resources. But in PaaS, you don't have that much of control. It's like, as I said, it's not exact, but yeah, it's almost a 50-50% ratio. Coming on to SaaS, it stands for Software as a Service. This is like centrally hosted and managed by the cloud provider, right? By the end for the end customer by the cloud provider, to be more clear. So here what happens is it's basically based on an architecture where one version of the application is used for all the customers. That is how it actually works. Taking some example of SaaS, for example, Office 365 is SaaS. Then you have Skype, that also comes under Software as a Service. Then you have Dynamics CRM Online. So these are few examples of Software as a Service. Okay, so what I've explained is actually mentioned I mentioned about infrastructure as a service, that service and software actually what we manage, and so the sky blue color one is something what we manage, and the dark blue color is something what the cloud provider manages. So in software as a service, you
Hey,
can see almost everything.
Navika, sorry to interrupt in between. We just had
Yeah.
lost you like couple of seconds before. So can you that
Oh,
take
okay.
it like rewind? Yeah.
Yeah. So could you just let me know where did I lose the connection or
Uh,
something?
y-
Did you hear about SaaS,
yeah.
software as a
The starting
service?
starting of the SaaS.
Okay, so I'll just quickly repeat it, no worries.
Okay.
So, yeah, so apologize for the network connection. You know how the online things work. Some things just out of our control. So, yeah, coming on to SaaS, software as a service. So what basically happens here is it's centrally hosted by the cloud provider. We hardly have any control. Most of the control over the resources is at the cloud provider's end. That is how it happens. And there are a few examples of SaaS. For example, Office 365 is an example. Dynamics CRM Online, and for that matter, even Skype is an example of software as a service. So whatever I said is here in a tabular form, maybe a little bit more in depth, wherein the light blue color or the sky blue color, you can say it corresponds to what we manage, and the dark blue color corresponds to what the cloud provider is managing. So that's just for your like a pictorial reference, a tabular form. Uh, so we are almost done with what is cloud computing all about. And now let's get on to Azure. Now, what is Azure? So, yes, we know it is a cloud computing platform by Microsoft, very simple definition. And what does it aim at? So, it aims at building and testing and deploying applications. I hope so. This much you would be able to understand now that we have understood about cloud computing. So, this is something very easy. Cloud computing platform by Microsoft is Azure, and it's aiming at building, testing, and deploying your applications. Going a little deeper into it, so Azure Cloud Platform, it has more than 200 products and services that it provides you with, right? So that you can basically bring in your idea into life. That's what it basically does. We have 95% of the Fortune 500 companies that trust the business on Azure. So they are basically 95% of the Fortune 500 companies are using Azure as the cloud computing platform, and it provides 90 plus compliance offerings, which is almost the largest as compared to any other in the industry. Again, still a question arises, we have so many, but why Azure? So as the pointers which I mentioned on your deck, so first it is pretty much easy to use. So when I will just show you its interface, you will, I can vouch for it, you will yourself understand that. It's pretty much cost effective. It's not costly comparatively. It provides you with some amazing security offerings as well. And the best part is that it has the largest compliance coverage, and that's one of the, I would say, the main plus point of using Azure. Okay, so let me now show you something. So this is actually a screenshot of how your Azure looks like, right? Azure portal looks like. Um, so before getting on to, okay, so I'm just sharing my this screen. Here it is. Parth, is it visible? If you could just give me a thumbs up on that.
Yep,
My
I
Azure
can see.
portal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had thought that I will try to give you maximum practical experience of what I can in Azure in this span of time. So let's start with that. So what is Azure Portal? So Azure Portal, it is a web-based console, you can say. It provides us an alternative to command line tools. I'm not going much into command line tools, etc., because it's an overview session. So let's just do something interesting in Azure as much as we can do with this much knowledge. So with this portal, with this Azure portal, what all I can do? So I can build my resources, build a virtual machine, storage accounts, VNets, IoT Hub, ML, AI, etc., etc. I can manage and monitor everything from this particular place, right? So I'm using the web version. Okay, I'll just give you an overview of it. So these are the resources available, but these are not just the resources available. There are a lot of resources. So this is a portal menu which I'm showing the the three lines which you can see at the top left corner. When I click on it, so here you can see all services. So these are the services that are provided by Azure. You can see there are a lot of services. So if I scroll the left portion of the screen, these are different categories like general, compute, networking, storage, web, mobile, so on and so forth. So if someone is good at AI, ML, go in for this. Then you have MR, the mixed reality, IoT, Internet of Things, DevOps, etc., etc. These are the services provided. You can work on any category matching to what you are into or whatever just excites and interests you. Then similarly, it's available that on screen as well. Like within networking, we have subcategories like virtual networks, load balancers. Rather, let me just. So here, if I come on to compute. So today, as I said, we are going to work on compute and storage. I will just take you through it. So within compute, we would be working on virtual machines. So like virtual machine is a subcategory of compute, which is the major category. Similarly, you have function apps, you have container instances that you can work on, you have Kubernetes services, etc., etc. And similarly, coming on to the storage part as well, here. So today, as I said, we would be working on storage accounts and blobs, etc. But yeah, so that's the subcategory of storage. Then you have a lot of other things also like Azure Data Box, Azure NetApp Files, Azure Data Box Gateway, etc., etc. Not taking you much into it. Then you have app services provided by Azure. You can deploy your applications also over here. And so on and so forth. You have containers, container instances, etc., etc. So just to make you a bit more savvy with the interface of the Azure portal, so whatever I wish to search, I can actually search here on the Azure on the search bar if I don't wish to search through this long process. Just typing something generally. So if I want to go on to a resource group, let's suppose I'll just type resource and here it is. I'll just click on it and my resource group gets up, and that's what we would be working on in just a few minutes. Then before that, let me just take you. Yeah. So then here, if I click on this bell bar, so this is for the notifications. Whatever you're doing on your Azure portal, let's suppose if I'm creating something, I'll show that to you in just a few minutes. Or I'm deleting a resource, I'm creating a resource, something is getting deployed. Basically, all the ongoing processes are being showed on this notification bar, right? Then you have this particular question mark sort of logo, which is for support and troubleshooting, and this is the place where you log in and log out from your account, right? That's about Azure portal. That's enough for a beginner to know. Now coming on to the next thing. So Azure Services, I have already told you, I've already shown you the practically that how many that Azure provides us with so many services, almost more than 200 products and services. But the core Azure services, if I talk about, so they can be of these four categories. I can like just categorize it almost into under these four categories. The first one is Azure Architecture. Then we have Product and Services. Then we have Azure Solutions. And last but not least, we have Azure Management Tools. So within architecture, we have resource groups. Hovering quickly onto the next tab. So as I just told you about resource group that we would be creating, don't worry, I'll tell you what resource groups are all about. But this resource group actually comes under your Azure architecture part. Similarly, under Azure and product services, you have resources like Azure Compute and Azure Storage, about which we have started studying. Then we have Azure Solutions. Under this, you have big data, you have IoT, serverless computing, AI, ML, etc., etc. And then we have Azure management tools, within which we would be having Azure Advisor. Yeah, we would be having Azure Advisor, PowerShell, and even the Azure portal actually comes under Azure management tools because it's this Azure portal through which we are managing everything, right? We are deploying, we are creating everything we are doing through and monitoring as well through this Azure portal. So Azure portal is also a Azure management tool. Okay, so now coming on to resource groups. Actually, I want to take you into virtual machines and storage. But before getting into that, let me just tell you what a resource group is. Because before creating virtual machine or before creating a storage account and saving some sort of things over there, we would be needing to create a resource group prior that. So before moving into it, let me give you a quick brief about what resource is. Resource group is like a container. Okay, so what it does, it holds all the related resources under one banner. That's what you can say. So all the resources within that particular resource group. So okay, let me explain in a way. So for example, I'm creating a virtual machine. Let's suppose I want to create two virtual machines, not one. So what I'll do is I'll create these two virtual machines, naming it VM1 and VM2, and I will put it under the resource group. Let's suppose I'll name the resource group. Okay, so let me show you practically. This is my resource group. I hope you understood how I went to it. I just went on to my this is my Azure portal. I clicked on the search bar and I just type resource and my resource group is here. And I click on it. This is how I went onto my resource group service. Pretty much simple. So what a resource group exactly does is we can save as many resources as we want in one particular resource group, right? I can, so example, if I create two VMs and I can put that under one VM resource group. So I know this must be like a little bit difficult for you to understand at this moment, but so let me just move on with the practical part and then I hope so it'll be easier for you to understand. Now, how do we create a resource group? So I go to this create button and whatever subscription, once again, yeah. So whatever subscription you have, you simply, whatever is available to you, you can take that subscription. You name the resource group. So it's like the naming is a little bit problem because it's like many people have already taken the name what you intend to choose. So you have to be very unique with the naming your resource group. So naming it. Yeah. So I have named it and you can see this tick mark also over here. That means, yes, this particular name is available and no one has used it. So I've named it res7922. The region, not getting too much into it, it is East US. Yes, you can change it as well from here, but I don't prefer changing it. That's something which I usually use. Reason being, it has most of the resources available. We have tags and all, not going into it. I'm simply quickly creating and review and create and validation passed and yeah. And I create a resource group. So it's validating. It might take a little bit time. Yeah, it's created. So here you can see what I just told you about the notifications. As soon as my resource group is created, it is up here, right? It is whatever things I'm doing. It's like an activity log over here. And whatever activity is being done on Azure portal, it reflects over under the notification bar. Okay, now this is how you actually create a resource group. How do you open it? Pretty much simple. What I've created, just click on it. And here you can see my resource group here. So I don't have any resources within it, right? It's 0 records because no resources, like I don't have any resources. I've not created. I've simply created a outline of it. It's like I've created a bag. Okay, I've created a bag and I've not put any stuff within it. Just kind of visualize it. So this is a bag. This is a resource group, but I have not created any resources which I'm putting inside it. So it's like an empty bag as of now, right? The resource group. Great. Okay, now one more thing. So for example, now I'm creating a resource. I would be creating a resource within it. So let's suppose I'll be creating a virtual machine. The virtual machine, if I'm creating a virtual machine VM1, it can just be in this particular resource group. I mean, see, we can have 10 more resource group, but so what I mean to say is that a resource can only exist in one particular resource group. It's not that I create one virtual machine and I'm putting it in 10 different, in 10 different resource groups. That's not possible. One resource it should be exclusively in one resource group only. That is what I mean to say. So that's what I actually mentioned. One resource is exclusive to a resource group. Now, coming on to the next set is Azure Compute. What's Azure Compute? Not going too much in depth into the theoretical knowledge, but yeah, it is an on-demand computing service for running a cloud-based application, right? It provides us with multi-core processors and supercomputers via virtual machines and containers. So that's what your Azure Compute is about. We have three things within Azure Compute. I'm sorry. So we have three things within Azure Compute, namely virtual machine, container, and serverless computing. Now, what are virtual machines? That's something very interesting. So virtual machine is like it's like an emulation of your computer. So just like your desktop or a laptop, which I'm using right now, it is just like that. So when you work on a virtual machine, it's just that it'll give you a feel that you're actually working on your own computer. So what actually each virtual machine includes? It includes an OS that is an operating system, and a hardware, right? That appears to the user or to the customer who is actually using it. It appears to him as if he's running a computer on maybe Windows or Linux. That's how it appeals to be. So that's the virtual machine is something very interesting. Um, that's what I just said. Yeah, exactly what I said. It's like just like a emulation of a physical computer. Now coming on to a little bit creation of virtual machine, I am not sure whether I'm able to run it or not because since I'm sharing my screen, so it might take a little bit of time. Okay, anyways, we can at least create one. So how do you create a virtual machine? Now that I have a resource group ready with me, I told you resource group is like a bag and I'm putting resources within it. So the first resource which I wish to put is a virtual machine. Here, recent services are available over here, which I might have used a few days ago. Otherwise, if it's not visible to you because you're using the Azure portal for the first time, go on to search bar, type virtual and machine also. This is a virtual machine. I don't have any virtual machines created as of now, so it's showing no virtual machines to display. Okay, so at time. So I go on to create. The first option, I chose the first option. 1 second, let me just go back. I don't know whether it was clear to you or not. Yeah. So I go to create. I choose the first option, that is Azure Virtual Machine. Subscription and all. Yeah. So now I'll have token. Now, see, the second option is resource group. Right. So that's the reason I actually created a resource group. So, and it is compulsory. You can see the star over here. So I simply select, since I already, so there are two options. Already if you have existing resource group, choose that, or otherwise you can create one also. But why should I create one? I already have one created, and that's the reason I did it before. I choose that one which is already created. I name my virtual machine. Windsor, let's suppose. Yes, name is available. Be very careful on the name should be available over here. Otherwise, if you just name it VM and all, people have usually taken it. People are using that name. So you have to be careful about the name which you're selecting. It should be unique. Choose a region. I would prefer East US. Let's see if that's available or not. It is not, but let's still go for US. So I've created US West. Don't worry about the zones and availability options, etc., etc. Okay, here is a different type of images which you can choose, as in what type of VM you want to create. Virtual machine. I want to create a Windows one, so I've chosen that. Otherwise, you have a lot many options. Not going into it because I understand it's the first session for many of you, so don't worry about that. And similarly, I would let me see if I'm creating a password. I'm able to see it. Yeah. So I'll be creating a username that is for the administrator account. Let's suppose I say user one. Let me see. What does it say? Username contains special characters. Okay. So it needs to be a little bit long. So yeah. So I've named it user Navika one. Anything. I am creating a password. Any password. be sure about the type of password you're creating. I think this is already taken. So and oh, finally done. Yeah. So I'm able to create a password. Which is available, and it should match all the, as you it must be visible to you as well. So there are certain criteria to create a password, so you can just follow that and create one. After we are done with that, I'm not going into disks and networking management, advanced stacks. That's too much for the first session. So let me just review and create it quickly. So you can see, it's pretty much easy to do that. It's not tough. It's just by clicks, you're simply able to create a virtual machine. And that's why I always prefer doing that through Azure Portal. Okay, so yeah, so you can see it's 8.4 rupees per hour. That's the cost of the virtual machine. That means the moment my second hour starts, the price will automatically get doubled, like double as in the next phase of the 8.4 rupees would start. So for 1 hour, it is 8.4 rupees, which is pretty much fine. You can change also if you want to. Under subscription, you can actually change if you want to. You can choose the virtual machine according to the pricing as well. But I didn't do that as of now because it would have, been a little bit complex for you to understand. So I've done nothing. I've simply clicked on create, and my validation is getting passed. It is already passed. And now whatever time it takes to get created, here you can see it's initializing deployment, submitting deployment, and deployment in progress. So you can see over here as well, the deployment is in progress. It might take a few minutes. It might happen quickly. So I wouldn't be running it most probably. Reason being, it will take time, and since I'm sharing my screen, so it would take a little bit more time. But let's see. Yeah, so still things are being created. It's under deployment. Don't worry about what it's showing over here, NSG and all. This is for network purpose, etc. So it's like a little bit of networking portion. My deployment is in progress. And I think 1-2 more things to be created, and then we're done with it. It also mentions the start time. I can cancel it also anytime if I wish to, but I won't be doing that because it's almost done. Just a second. So it usually takes time. Actually, it takes 2 to 3 to 4 minutes. 2 minutes have already passed. Few more minutes maybe, or maybe a few more seconds. So actually, till the time my virtual machine is getting created, let's not just waste time, and let me quickly tell you about containers. Okay, I'll tell you about containers. In the meanwhile, the virtual machine hopefully will get created, because we have to work on that as well. So what are containers? So containers, I would say, is pretty much similar to virtual machine, but the only difference is that it does not require any guest operating system to run on. So what happens in container is all your application and whatever its dependencies are, they're actually packaged into one particular category, or what you call as container, and then under a standard runtime, it's executed as the app, right? So as it does not need any guest operating system, it implies that it requires very less time, right? Compared to virtual machine, because it does not need to boot or initialize. It does not have any operating system. So that's about containers. And so one of the example of container is actually Docker. It's uh, it's an open source project. I think you guys must have read about it somewhere. If not, so yeah, you're getting to know about it today. So Docker is an example of containers. Coming on to the serverless computing, so it's serverless computing. It basically lets us run the application code without creating or maybe without maintaining or configuring a server. So that actually what serverless actually implies. So pretty much matches to what its heading is, that is serverless computing. What's actually the idea behind the serverless computing is that whatever application is, I'm just telling you how it actually happens in backend. It actually gets broken into certain separate functions or separate pieces, which is actually known as functions. And whenever there is a certain kind of trigger or some action, then it actually runs. That's how the serverless computing works. It is very ideal for automated tasks. So if you want to send automatic emails or maybe automatic confirmation emails to your clients after payment or after registrations, to a lot of people, right? In masses, if you want to send thousand mails to certain people, one mail to thousand people for one particular common reason, then here's when serverless computing comes in, when you can do that by just automating it. So that's about serverless computing all in all. Let me just see if my virtual machine is created. Yeah, so the deployment is complete. My virtual machine is created. Where can I view my virtual machine? Now that I've created it, there must be some place where I can view it. Now, one thing I told in the beginning is resource groups are very important. What does resource groups do? It actually stores our resources. So let me hover onto resource groups only quickly. I created this res7922. I'll click on it. And if you remember, I had chosen this particular resource group while I was creating the virtual machine. So here my virtual machine is actually, right? Here it is. Windsor. This is the one which I actually created. This is the virtual machine which I actually created. So I'm not running it. I don't want to do that, right? 10, 15 minutes. And that's the reason. But what I actually wanted to show you was that here's how your resource group. So your resource group is res7922, and the resource within it is a virtual machine. That's how it works. And if you run it, it'll actually just like the computer, it'll just look like a desktop, a computer or laptop screen. It's just very similar to that. Coming on to the next part, so this was Azure Compute. Coming on to Azure Storage. So in Azure Storage, we basically have different types of storage, right? Um, we have disks and we have files, which comes under the IaaS category. I hope so you can recall I told you about IaaS, where most of the control is with us, right, on our resources. So disks and files come under that category. And then you have PaaS, which stands for Platform as a Service. And under that, we have blobs, we have tables, and we have queues. Quickly hovering on to our Azure portal. Let me type storage account. Okay, so you can type it over here also, but I think I recently used it, so it's over here only. It's very simple to create one. First, let's just create a storage account, and then you will get you'll understand more about it. So how do we do that? Similarly, how we created VM and how we created our resource group, on the similar basis, we are creating a storage account. I go on to create simple, okay, resource group. I don't know, some other resource group is selected. I would be choosing this. I don't even remember the names which I've given to all my things that I've created. This was also taken. So we need to be very particular with the name. Let me see whether this is taken or not. Just trying out different names. Yeah. Oh God. So most of the names which I'm typing, as you can see, are already taken. Yeah, so hopefully this is not taken. Yeah. So I've just typed the name of the storage account, and I have simply not going to redundancy and regions, etc. Region I've already told you the reason why I selected. I can select something else, but East US is the best. That's what I always do. I'll go for review, and then there are certain things in between as well, what we can do, but I'm not getting you. So my validation is passed, and then I create my resource group. No, so not resource group, I'm sorry, the storage account. So if you see, the storage account is actually also getting created within the resource group, the res 7922 which I created. So storage account is also like a resource for the resource group. So now my resource group actually has, once it gets deployed, it has a VM within it, and then it has a storage account also within it. I hope I'm not, it's understandable. I hope people are able to understand what I'm saying. I hope I'm not going too fast, but I was just thinking to give you, let me just see if I have any messages. Okay, I don't have any messages. So yeah, so my storage account, it has been created, and now if I go onto my, if I now go onto my resource group, I'll click on this, I'll go over here, and now you can actually see I have a WinSert, that is my virtual machine, which has been created. And alongside that, I also have the storage account, which I just recently created, right? When I click on it, this is how it looks like. So as I said, there are different types of, if you look at the left hand side of the screen, this, I don't know whether you're able to see my hovering mouse or not. So these are different types of data storages over here. One is container, file shares, queues, tables. Queues and tables is something which is not that much used. Mostly containers and files is something that we use. So if I click on, okay. So I've told you about this. I have actually given you a practical example of creating a storage account. I've told you about the types of storage. You have blobs, you have files, you have tables and queues. Okay, so how it actually looks like is, I have a storage account. So this name which this is a name, okay, strgact, this is a name I've just given to account. In our case, the storage account name is storage79221, right? So we have a container within it. Let me explain you like this. We have a container within it, right? So within a storage account, I have a container. I can have many containers. I can have one container, I can have two, I can have as many as I wish to. Let's suppose I name a container pictures, and then within containers, so there is something known as blobs. So whatever I actually put within my container actually is in the form of blocks. That blob, that is what we can actually store within a container. So it's different to what files is. Do not go too much into it, but yeah. So this is how it's kind of sort of a flow chart. It's like you have an account, you create a container within it. First you create it, and then within that you can create a resource which can be saved within a container. And yes, we can actually run it on the machine. So I don't know if I have any image available. So I can create a container. Let's suppose I create by name container1. Okay, let me just change this and make it block only. And I created. So I have named my container as container1, and now I'm creating it. Oh, it's created quite quickly. So I've created a container, right? So what I've done is created a storage account. Within that, I've created a container. Container is again an empty bag. Imagine it like that. Now within container, if I click on container, I can actually upload something if I wish to, right? So I don't know whether I have anything to upload or not. So I actually go on upload. So it is automatically blob. I said whatever's saved within a container, it will be in the form of blob. I can select a file from here, from my local machine, like whatever things I have, and I can simply upload it over here, which I am not going to do right now. I can simply upload it over here, and then I can run it. Then I will get a link to it, which I can actually paste on my Chrome over here, and that image will be shown on your web browser. That's how it works. Let me repeat that. I'm not doing that because that usually takes time. But still telling you, what I did was I created a storage account. Within a storage account, I created a container, went onto the container. From the left side, I clicked on it. I I added a new container by going onto this plus sign by the name of container one. Now that my container one is created, and I give it a blob anonymous access, not a private one. The reason why I said, this means that my blob will be visible, right? Don't go that much deep into it. I click on container, and after that, I can upload anything. And upload as in I'll open my file, and then like my files will get opened, whatever files I have, and I can upload a picture over here, right? And then I will upload it. Once I upload it, I'll be able to click on that uploaded picture or file, whatever you've uploaded, usually a picture. I click on that and then I'll get a link, like a URL. I can just simply copy that URL and I can paste it over here onto my incognito or whatever you wish to, and you will be able to see that particular picture on your web browser. So that's how it actually works, uploading a blob. But similar thing if you do with a file, that won't be possible. I mean, you wouldn't be able to see your file over here. But yes, you can run your file in a virtual machine. So that's something. So if you understand this much and you want to just try a little bit more, so you can actually hover onto this and you can just kind of just fiddle with it a little bit more and you can see how it works. But that was something which I actually thought of making you do a practical one, so that at least you get a hold of it, right? That how actually things work over Azure. And it's pretty much easy to do. It's just like a matter of click. So now that we are done, I've like given you a brief about storage. Now coming on to the benefits of storing data in Azure. So it has automated backup and recovery. You have replication across all the globe. You have storage tiers, like you have hot, cool, and archive. Hot access is something like you want to access a particular file or particular resource of yours very frequently. Then you save it in the hot tier. And similarly, you have cool. So the cool one is like if you want to access it maybe once in 30 days, not that much, less than hot, and more than the archive one, then you go in for the cool ones. That's like the mediocre tier. And then finally, you have the third tier, that is the archive tier, and that means you want to, let's suppose, review your resource once in some 100 days or something, or 180 days. Then you go in for the archive tier. So that's like these three different type of tiers. This is the comparison between Azure data storage and on-premises storage. Whatever I said is just up there on the screen in a tabular format. So Azure data storage, client-side encryption and encryption at rest. And in on-premises, dedicated servers are required for privacy and security, and so on and so forth. I've almost explained this previously to you in the previous slides. Similarly, we have a lot many Azure services apart from storage and compute. You as well, these are the type of services, and you actually feel really interested in, or something which you would like to explore, or you already have knowledge about it. So you can hover onto any of these categories, maybe IoT or AI ML, and you can just explore more into it. And Azure is one of the best place to do that, to deploy your applications from any of these categories and work more into it. So that's about Azure services, and I hope so you understand about virtual machines, resource groups, storage accounts, creating containers and blobs, and it might be a little bit more in depth for you, but it's always good to see a practical version of what we are reading as well, so that it's more grasping. And yes, it's almost at the end of this session, and that was all about it. And in fact, if you have any questions, you can ping me, as in you can just send a text message on chats. Anything you want to ask from the session that we have done right now, because there is, as I said, Azure is the ocean, so there are a lot of questions, but something which you would like to ask about it, feel free to just ask your question. Or otherwise, you can connect with me also on LinkedIn and all. If you feel a bit hesitating, you can ask me over there. I would be more than happy to answer your queries. So yeah, that brings us to the end of the session, and I hope it was a good learning experience for you all. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Navika, there are like a few questions in the chat. Would you like to take it up?
1 second, I'll just see.
Like Sunny asks, can we add RAM and SSD to the virtual machine?
1 second, let me just 1 second. Is my screen sharing? One second. Okay, just a second. Just give me 1 second. Let me just close the other window and I'll quickly answer your question.
Okay. So meanwhile, any more questions, please feel free to add the questions in the chat section. So before Navika comes back, so I have few things to share with you. I would like to share our uh, group links where you can go ahead and see our future events or our past events as well. So I'm sharing you the few links. Please go ahead. The first one is the LinkedIn group link, the Microsoft Reactor LinkedIn group link. The second one is our meetup page link where you can find our any events which we are publishing in the future. You can see those events there. And the third one is our Reactor YouTube channel link. YouTube channel link is where you can see all the recorded sessions. Yeah, Chandan, you can see the recorded session within 72 after 72 hours on our Reactor YouTube channel.
Yeah, I'm back. So I was just closing the my Azure thing. Yeah. So the question is, Aishwarya, ma'am, can you please share your profile page once more on my profile page? Okay, Aishwarya, can I just quickly share my screen? You quickly just
I have it handy. You want me to share?
if you have it, please share it. I just did stop sharing the screen.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I will have to paste it. So, and then apart from that, the next question is by Sunny. So Sunny, yes, we can add. Okay, so what you're asking was a little bit more in depth from the session, but yes, you can read it more about it. It is possible. And what you're saying is like adding more RAM and SDD is like it's known as auto scaling. So yes, I think there is a document available, a Microsoft document itself available about auto scaling, and it's like it's available. It's like a Microsoft doc which is based on auto scaling, which covers this portion of RAM and SDD what you're talking about. And yes, that is possible, and you can read it more about it in the Microsoft documentation. I hope that answers that your question. Apart from that, Alton, can you share a copy of the PPT used? That's the PPT as in it was very simple PPT. That's something which but it'll be up there on the recording, right, Parth? It would be up
Yeah,
there on the recording.
it will be on the recording.
Yeah, so you can see that from there, but like these are like I've created from different resources, so I don't know whether it's possible sharing or not. But yeah, so you can see the recording for that. Welcome, Alton. Then the next is Sudhanshu Singh. Could you suggest more resources to learn from, like Learn modules or Cloud Skills challenges? Yeah. So okay, you have this Microsoft Learn website, right? Um, if you just go on to Google and you know any Safari and all, you just type Microsoft Learn. So that's like one of the best sites to learn about cloud computing or whatever interests you. They have a lot many learning modules over there, and whatever interests you and whatever is your field, you can is of your field, you can surely just, go over there and you can learn more about it.
Yeah, I'm sending the learn module document I had created for this event. I'm just
Yeah,
sending that.
even
Yeah.
yeah, even for this event and even generally, like if you just go on to there now, so there are a lot many modules available, and you can, yeah, this one and the main link, you can go to Microsoft Learning Path, and there you can find a lot many amazing modules. It's very good. You have sandboxes and all also over there, so you can take a practical experience also. And in fact, if any one of you has any doubts now regarding this, and even generally, career wise is something, always just feel free to ping me on LinkedIn. I'm always there to, always love to help people out. So yeah.
Final call to
Any
ask any questions.
yeah, Frank. I am just seeing, is there any other question? I'm
Okay,
just seeing if
I
I have,
think
yeah. So Aishwarya asked one of the question. I'm just actually going through the, I'm just going through the questions which have been asked. So yeah, Aishwarya, the passwords must be unique. You cannot, as I said, it should be like they have certain characters which are supposed to be there, and then you have so there's this certain thing, that rule how to create a password, and yes, it needs to be unique. You cannot create the same password. So yeah, that's one of the criteria. You saw while I was creating, I was getting errors, so I had to try a new one. Anything
okay.
else? I hope so. You liked the session. It was a good learning for you, and hopefully, Parth, we would conduct one more session like this soon, and maybe a
Yeah.
level higher.
Yes, for sure.
Amazing, amazing. And thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
having me. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
having me over here. It was a
Thank you,
pleasure, and
Navika.
thanks everyone for being a
Thank
part.
you, Navika. Thank you, Navika, for the session. And thank you all. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Please do share your feedback about today's session. Also, feel free to use the Learn module link shared in the chat section. That it will give you the additional access to additional access resource and will take your learning further. Also, please visit our Microsoft Reactor Bangalore meetup page for more upcoming sessions. And thank you all once again. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks, Parth. Have a nice day. Bye.
See
Thanks,
you.
Frank.